Quite an old design, so it's like a physical
A spray, like a what? How do you say that?
spray,
Spray.
like ocean spray. But yeah, it was Joshua Slocum's boat.
Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah,
36 footer.
yeah, yeah.
And you were sailing on this exact boat.
Well, not that specific boat, but a boat that is yeah, like a exact copy of it.
Wow. What? Wow. That would have been amazing. Just around
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Port Phillip Bay.
Um, no, 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 up in Queensland, so Moreton Bay.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, it's good sailing up in Moreton Bay.
Mm. But yeah, so I'm pretty sure Slocum was the first person to ever solo circumnavigate the globe.
I hadn't heard of him. That's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, especially back in the day. Like, I mean, not to take away from what was that chick's name?
Yeah, I remember the one, the blonde haired one.
Jessie. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
very, very impressive to do it at 16. But like, she had sat phones and GPS, and he had none of
Yeah.
that. So it was when he was in the middle of the South Pacific and a storm came.
You just hang on. Try and keep
Yeah,
the tiller perpendicular to the.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He didn't have a bunch of people telling him, "Okay, do this, do that." It's just you got to figure it out.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, it was a good time off. How about you? You know, do
Yeah, I went
anything
camping
for
in.
Christmas?
Yeah, I went camping in
Camping.
Steel Rocks, which is
Mhm.
nice. Yeah, it's very rustic. No mobile
Mhm.
phone reception, so yeah,
Oh yeah, that's good.
good dopamine detox.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
But
no, we went camping at Berry, but I don't think we could get the kids to buy into like a no cell reception
yeah.
camping trip because they're just like,
Yeah. Yeah, but it did leave me outside of the news loop, so that's what the excuse I'm running with as to why I don't have any topics prepared. So we're just going to wing it, all right?
we're just gonna
So
freewheel it. Yeah, okay.
yeah, but I did saw something. So obviously this is Dreadnought News. Our format is we go domestic topics first, then we discuss US topics, and then British topics or whatever. And I did see something regarding domestic politics yesterday, which made me lose my mind with rage. So, and I think I'm sharing my screen. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was Gladys Berejiklian. Gladys Berejiklian makes a rare campaign appearance. This witch, popped her head up from her witches. Look at this picture. What? And I know that you were down in Melbourne during COVID, so you guys probably were suffering under Dan Andrews, and you looked up to New South Wales and thought, "Oh wow, at least they have a Liberal premier." Let me tell you, she was just as bad as Dan Andrews. Maybe not quite as bad, but
I've
just
got 290 days of straight lockdown that says different.
okay. No, not quite as bad, but directionally, she was in lockstep with Dan.
Yeah.
And it was I just hate her so much. And here she is saying, "Oh no, um, we don't want to pre-select Warren Mundine for this seat in the upcoming
Why
election. We want
not?
no, she wants to just look at this. This is the face of the person who she wants to be pre-selected. Some like soulless corporate drone from Salesforce. Oh, Salesforce.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Just
Yeah.
just these are the kind of people that we don't. This is
Desperately don't need. Yeah.
these are the kind of people that have been ruining everything for the last 10 years. And so, but they're like, oh, we need to select a female candidate because up against a clean energy expert. Look at, Look at that face.
But that's the thing, though, right? Like, oh no, we're up against a clean energy expert. There's a contradiction in terms. There's there is no such thing as clean energy expertise because it doesn't exist.
Yeah, they're worried about the teals when they should have realized from from the
Yeah,
election of Trump that it directionally the world has changed thanks to
yeah,
in
and
part, yeah, Trump, and in part that was a very good article that you shared with me before, actually, which I thoroughly enjoyed reading.
the tablet one.
Yeah, yeah, this
Yeah,
one.
it's a long form read for sure, but
Hmm.
I that there's been a couple of articles that I've read recently that have done a reasonably good job of putting various events in their proper context. Well, maybe not in their proper context, but like finding a through line that links a whole bunch of stuff together. So that being one of them. Another one was like the censorship industrial complex. I cannot remember the name of it. I'll dig it up for Wednesday if we do it, or if not next week. But just how the censorship went off control. What was interesting is we're seeing it in Australia as well, although perhaps less so, is this concept of a politically exposed person, and then
Oh,
all the banks and shit will just drop you.
yeah, that's what they tried to do to Nigel Farage
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
UK.
yeah.
Yeah.
But they successfully do it to people in the UK. That Mark Anderson, Joe Rogan, he said, yeah, I did. I listened to Zuckerberg and Rogan, and that same committee that Elizabeth Warren heads up, they started digging around Facebook looking for shit. Right after he was like, "Well, we're not gonna censor things that are true," and immediately Elizabeth Warren's like banking committee started sniffing around looking for stuff to punish them on. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's Soviet Union level coercion.
it's wild, man. But yeah, no, on that, I'm I'm hopeful about the Teals. I think Gladys Berejiklian is wrong on that. Like, I would not be particularly worried about the Teals. I certainly would not be selecting a female candidate uh, on the strength of, oh my God, there's a female Teal in this seat. Like, get her talking about Palestine for 30 seconds, and that'll be that campaign over.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, but the moderate liberals don't think that way. Like they've got no first principles. They still
yeah,
just live under that. It's exactly like that article was discussing, like the manufactured consent. What was the term he used? He used the term.
that's it. Manufacturing consent, and he had a technical definition of uh, public opinion.
Hmm. Yeah, and
As
that's
public opinion being opinion held publicly, but by way of manufactured.
And then he talks about permission structures. And so you got to try and
Mm.
manufacture permission structures for people to vote against their own best interests. And this is the permission structure that these liberal moderates, these like wets, are living under. They're still living under
Have
this.
bought into, yeah.
Yeah, they've bought into it totally. So they just can't see a paradigm where you you pre-select the skulls
Well, I mean,
cracking
you look,
conservative, even though he's
yeah,
more popular and he's going to win. Like he's got a public profile and he's going to win, but they just don't
yeah,
live in that permission structure. It's just so frustrating.
yeah. And I mean, in fairness to um, Matt Keane, it pays, right? Pays real well.
Yeah,
Like he's got himself a multi-million-dollar mansion,
yeah,
and he hasn't even been out there lobbying. And
yeah.
like I watched some clean energy yada yada yucking around with him and Barnaby Joyce.
I
And
saw that
Barnaby
too.
Joyce just kicked his head in with a very simple thing, like where he just kept up renewables are the cheapest form. And Barnaby did the obvious thing with it. Don't listen to him. Don't even listen to me. Look at your power bills.
Yeah. Or look at the power
Are they
bills.
going up? Are they going
Yeah.
down?
Look at the
If
power
it was
bills
the
in
cheapest,
France
why aren't they
compared to
going now?
Germany. Yeah,
Yeah,
look at any two comparable economies, one which is heavily focuses on renewable energy, the other one uses nuclear. Like it's
yeah,
obvious which one's cheaper. It's like it's plain as the
yeah.
nose on your face. Nuclear is cheaper. Coal is the cheapest, and we have so much coal that we. And this is why I don't know what the Liberal Party still has bought so far into this leftist paradigm that they just can't even
I think
endorse
that's going to
coal.
change, though. I mean, it was interesting to listen. The main reason I listened to that Zuckerberg interview was to see how far he has changed. I mean, obviously, you don't trust that motherfucker as far as you can throw him.
Basic
Um,
stuff. I trust him.
uh, yeah, look, I mean, I'm very big on people have to have a road to absolution, right? Like,
Exactly. Yep. His redemption arc is well underway, and I'm here for it.
yeah, like if you do the leftist thing of um, original sin but no grace,
Yeah.
nobody will buy in.
Eventually, it's self-defeating. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that said, I'm still throttled on Facebook. During COVID, I just got completely throttled down, and
yeah,
now
yeah,
none of
yeah.
my
So look, I mean, we'll see what happens when it because it took a while for Elon to start pulling the plugs out and unthrottle people, right? So,
Mm. Yeah. So yeah.
but
So
look, I mean, the reality is that he is a squib, and um,
he's getting better. Look, everyone can mature. Everyone. He was a very very young, to be thrust into the debt into the very a central position in like the political censorship apparatus. I would have struggled as well, 100%. Like, yeah,
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't get me wrong. Like I'm sympathetic to his worldview to an extent, but I mean, Elon is in just a different league, right?
yeah.
Like he paid probably more than double what he should have for Twitter, and um and has had like SpaceX and Tesla have all had government contracts cancelled, and they're facing environmental regulation investigation and banking investigation. And then out of the blue, like some black dude saw like uh the N-word scrawled all over the dunnies at Tesla, like, yeah, sure, totally, yeah, yes. In California in 2022 at a tech company they had all kinds of N-words slathered all over the toilets. Sure, buddy. Sure. Yeah.
So,
And this all happened just after Elon broke the stranglehold on censoring everyone.
so I want to segue from this to move on to our second topic, which is US politics and US events.
Yeah.
Because while I was away camping, and a huge storm broke out about H1B visas and Indian migration, which is also a topic in Australia as well, with the
Oh, yeah, red
basically
hot.
the open borders sort of migration pact that Albanese is basically signed. And look, as a tech worker, yes, as a white tech worker, 100%, I want fewer Indians just because it's going to increase my salary. I get that. But at the same time, for Musk,
Yeah.
it's a matter of life and death. Like you said, he overpaid for Twitter by at least double. And the
At least.
only the only way that makes sense. And when he came in, what did he do? Basically fired everyone except guess who stayed? The H1Bs, because they didn't have a choice. They had to stay. And so for him, the only way Twitter survives and makes money is by, cheap labor. And so I don't know. I really need Twitter to survive as well. I'm loving life since Twitter was freed up and turned into X. But it's like these Indians for the tech moguls, they're like the spice on Arrakis. The H1Bs must flow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But at the same time, it's against my best interest because it's suppressing my wages. So
Yeah, well, look, I mean, and it's interesting to watch that stuff kind of play out because it plays out in incredibly stupid ways. Like, um, I know James Lindsay's trying to make it a center, like, you know that meme of like the school bus on the crossing and then a freight train goes through it? Like, he's like, oh, woke right, it's like they're super racist against Indians, and you're like, bro, you haven't worked in like literally, we had a barbecue on Boxing Day. Jason was there, and he was like, "Yeah, like I'm doing some work in Melbourne at the moment, and basically, if you're working in IT, you only work with other Indians."
Yeah, I only work with Indians.
Yeah, and like, what the fuck? Like, and so you can't. Yeah, and then when you take a look at the high school visa situation, like I saw somebody trying to say, "Oh, we're getting the Michael Jordans of engineering," and I'm like, I don't know what you've been looking at, but I'm getting DoorDash riders. As I am not getting the Michael Jordan of software engineering or anything even remotely like him.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, I'd say 90% of our high skill visas for jobs that you just can't plausibly call them high skill.
no,
I mean, even a lot of software development, I wouldn't classify as high skill. You know what I mean?
no, yeah,
Like I was able to carve out a decent living with no formal education in it whatsoever.
yeah,
So it like not to toot my own horn, but the simple fact is that I was able to get paid to program things uh, from a completely self-taught background. Now, I'm certainly not the Michael Jordan of uh, software engineering, but if you're importing someone to be programming at my skill level, it's just not high skill.
no,
You know what
no.
I mean? Like, yeah,
100%. Everyone on NDIS, if even if they
yeah,
can't move their legs, they can move their fingers. They can be trained to code, but okay, now we're getting back into domestic politics, but that is an absolute scam. And there was actually a good tweet today by some libertarian guy, and he's basically the problem with the NDIS is not that it is scammed, although obviously that is a problem. The problem is that it exists in the first place because no, but it's true. It incentivizes disability. Like if there was no other option, you had to learn how to code so that you could get a job because you're a paraplegic. It's your only option. Guess what? You're going to learn how to code and you're going to contribute. But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
once you've got this other option, you just get money for free. You don't have to worry about it. Then it takes another worker who could have potentially been productive and diverts him to basically service you, who an unproductive individual. So that's two unproductive individuals. And then of course there's the scammers, which is it adds another layer of, you know,
Yeah, well,
top of
I
that.
mean, I suppose we're back on domestic politics now, but one thing I would like to see from Dutton is like a willingness to overthrow the assumptions of an existing thing. So, for example, here's a great example. The NBN shouldn't exist. The NBN
No.
only exists because the government, uh, Telstra wanted to roll out fiber to the premises, but the government would not relax the universal coverage laws for the rollout.
Yeah. Which
That's
they yeah.
and so Telstra was like, well, but we can't build an entirely new network while having to service everybody all at the same time. We've got to build the network. And that's where the NBN came from.
No, the
Now,
telcos would have laid fiber throughout all of the cities like 15 years ago, and
yeah,
it would have been cheap and you anywhere. And then
yeah,
nowadays we've got Scott Starlink for
yeah,
it
which
would
is
have been
faster than
perfect.
anything that can be provided on the NBN. I mean, fiber is
Oh,
faster, don't get me wrong.
I just
Like,
had a 12-hour outage on NBN today while I was working from home trying to get things done. It was 12-hour
yeah,
outage. Oh, we've sent our technician out. He couldn't fix it, but he's determined the source of the error was upstream. Like seriously, a 12-hour outage on the NBN. Like luckily we've got the 5G redundancy, but yeah, 5G
yeah, yeah,
as
yeah.
well. And I mean, yeah, NBN is completely unnecessary, and so is the NDIS. And Abbott should have pushed back against it.
Yeah, so but my point with that is that now it's there. And I remember this very clearly, like Scott Morrison, he must have been, I don't know, he was having a brain fade, I guess, but he was saying, oh, well, Labor's very good at coming up with these ideas, but it's the Liberal Party that gets them working and
I remember that.
funding and efficient and all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, that's just accepting the premise that government should just wade into these areas
Exactly. You just
and
buying into
spend
their
a
paradigm
fortune.
again. Yeah.
Yeah, if it were me, I'd have been saying I don't accept that the debate on NDIS is finished. I don't accept that we've lost that debate.
Yeah, I
And a
would be
vote for
standing
me is a vote to kill it dead.
in the
Uh,
2025 election campaign. I was saying, look, we tried NDIS. We it found out that it doesn't work. It's a failure. It's costing way more
yeah,
money, and it's projected to cost hundreds of billions of dollars. Think of it this way: you could fund the NDIS for 18 months, or you could have fast rail along the entire eastern seaboard of Australia. Like that's literally the scale of it. So, yeah, I'll be saying,
yeah.
look, we're just going to
And we
abolish it.
were
We're
we
not
were
going to.
promised reasonable housing for Down syndrome, and we got sex workers for people on workers' comp.
Yeah, cruises and things. But yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, no, we're not doing that. There's no, it's just too damaged now. Its reputation is government funded sex workers and government funded holidays for oldies who are disabled. Uh, yeah, it's just been nothing but a rort up and down the line. And now it can't be saved. But as long as it's in place, so like now that Albo is talking about the NBN will never be sold off. It was never intended to be sold off. And in the original document,
that's a lie.
which put the idea forward, Rudd specifically said, this is not Telstra 2.0. It will always be private. It's intended to be private. And that's what you get for not, you know what I mean?
All right.
That's what
So
you get for not being willing to go back and refight that stuff. But
I'm in
yeah, I mean,
100%. I'm in 100% agreement on that. But let's leave domestic issues.
back to
Uh,
the US.
You
So
said you watched the Zuckerberg Rogan podcast. I had a choice. I could watch the Zuckerberg one or the Mel Gibson one, and so I watched the Mel Gibson one instead. And I regret nothing. I regret nothing. It was brilliant. But the
oh
funny,
well, I will likely end up watching that one tomorrow. I don't watch him all that regularly, but like
no, me neither. But that
I
was a
have
good.
been a bit lately actually because he's had a run of like
Narcan
extremely
threesome.
knowledgeable um plugged in guests who are dropping truth bombs like they don't care. Like I mean that debanking stuff
That was
and like it would be interesting. Zuckerberg is obviously too, he doesn't want to get like another committee rammed up his butt, so he was fairly mum on the government takeover of AI. But Mark Anderson was crystal clear. He said it's we're not the Biden administration said we're not going to allow
Wild
this
West.
field of research is not going to be done by the private sector. We're taking it over and I I feel like a couple of ways about that. Like I remember reading, it was Peter Thiel talking about like why there's so much sensitivity around nuclear technology. And I mean there's a range of reasons, but one of the big reasons is that India is not supposed to have the bomb.
Yeah, I saw that.
Um, yeah,
It's saying,
but India
yeah,
has the bomb. So it's
the whole
basically impossible.
the whole argument that it's unsafe is just a red herring to distract from the real issue, which is nuclear proliferation. Which they, yeah,
Yeah, so
once,
if you can generate nuclear power, you can almost certainly create a nuclear bomb. But
yes,
my attitude to that is, I was already convinced you don't have to sell me. Like, well, but think about it this way: if Australia was to have nuclear weapons, the main reason that we have such I wouldn't want to change our alliance even if we had nuclear weapons. But part of the reason that we're so buddy buddy with the US is China is looking at us with envious eyes and drawing their plans against us. But if we had nuclear weapons, you know what I mean?
Mm.
It would mean that we're a bit less dependent on the United States. We're a bit freer to do our own thing, and we a bit freer to say to China, no, you can't have our agricultural land. Fuck off. They're like, well, we'll sanction your wine. All right, well, I'll bomb Canton. But the point being is that it would dramatically make them rethink um getting any ideas. Because I mean, it's clear, like, I don't know if you saw this, but it is related, I suppose, to US politics. China has been registering patents that allow for container ships to cut undersea cabling.
I haven't seen that.
So yeah, so it looks like they're trying to figure out a cost-effective way to like cut the Guam cable and the cable that connects Taiwan and all that sort of stuff
Yeah.
uh, in a way that is not directly traceable back to them. But I mean, let's not mince words. You know what I mean? Like they're very clearly positioning more and more aggressively towards we're gonna we're gonna have a crack at Taiwan. Because yeah, I mean, if you were going to like cutting the internet off from Taiwan would be like a key strategic imperative, right?
Mm.
Very, very important to get that done.
So, what's your prediction on the time frame around that?
I I don't know. I think there'll be a bit of saber rattling for the next 6 months to sound out Trump. A bit like Little Rocket Man. It'd be interesting actually because Little Rocket Man hasn't been too noisy this time around. Um, but yeah, I think they want it. They've been clear that they think it's theirs, and they've been getting more and more aggressive.
Mm.
And I think they were thinking they had more time. I think they were backing a Harris presidency um, because I think, yeah, when they go to sound out Trump, it's going to be exactly like last time. If you do that, I will bring I will bring the hellfire to your shores faster than you can possibly imagine. Um, so I would say we're at least two presidential cycles from it. Because I would back. I mean, a lot will turn on what happens in the next 2 years, but my money, from what I can see of the Democrat bench, who is going to beat JD Vance?
Well, definitely not Gavin Newcomb.
No, no. But I mean, seriously though, who is on their bench that could possibly do it?
Yeah, I mean, no one's coming to mind, but
I mean, you might see some new talent come out, and I mean, you can never write off like the Democrat Party actually.
all right, I'll put a prediction out there. The Democratic candidate in the POTUS election in 2028 will be the current senator from Arizona, the astronaut guy. I forget his name. Kelly, maybe?
Oh, the beat out Carrie Lake.
Yeah,
I
it
know
could
who
be
you're talking
him or it
about.
could be Shapiro. Not Ben Shapiro.
Josh
Josh
Shapiro.
Shapiro. Could be either of those two. I'm thinking at this stage, or
I don't
Corey.
think it'll be Josh Shapiro. I really don't. I think it not. I'm not. Nothing I'm saying would allow Josh Shapiro. Like Josh Shapiro wrote fervently in favor of Israel's right to exist. Um,
Yeah. So my prediction is that the era of left wing sort of like woke hegemony is coming down, and that's just been reinforced by the California fires, and so it's going to have to be someone who's more connected to reality, such as like a smart Jewish governor of Pennsylvania, or
and
Kelly.
popular. Yeah,
Yeah, Kelly's popular, and he's for a Democrat, he's like based and not insane.
not
So
insane. Yeah,
yeah,
I look. I really don't know. I think that astronaut guy from Arizona is probably not a bad bet. It. but I mean, he would be a yeah, I mean, it'd be a Barack Obama. He's not getting there without buy-in from someone like David Axelrod or I cannot remember the guy's name, James Cleaver, I think his name is. Without someone's buy-in like that, um, I don't think that'll happen. But just because he won't have the name recognition, you got to keep in mind, like Barack Obama's rise was out of control. That guy was elected to the Senate 4 years before he became president of the United States.
Yeah.
I'm unaware of anyone quite like that.
Well, the only one comparable in recent memory is Trump, who didn't have any sort of, but he was like a famous TV personality. But yeah, he didn't have
Yeah, yeah. So he already had a
a
national
profile.
recognized personal brand, and also like he is a once in a generation political talent. So I don't see that in that Arizona guy, but maybe. Yeah, look, it will depend. I just don't think that they're going to be able to purge the left wing craziness sufficiently to get Josh Shapiro across the line. I'd be worried about him if he were to run, but ultimately, I think I would back JD Vance over him.
It just depends. I think the next phase of the left wing plan is going to be to exploit an upcoming economic emergency caused by spiking bond yields. Bond yields have been
Hmm.
spiking for the last couple of weeks to the
Mm.
point where governments literally will not be able to pay the interest bill on
Yeah.
the deficit. It's going to trust me that within the next 6 months, that whole crisis is going to come to a head. And if the leftists can exploit that, then they might have, it depends on how well the current administration, well, the incoming administration handles this.
Yeah, well, certainly yeah, we'll see. I mean, you can't put all your eggs in a in one savior. Trump is, after all, just a man. But how would I put it? It's difficult to say exactly, but the it can always be kicked down the line in a global reserve currency situation. So, hyperinflation is not something that's going to happen in the United States.
No.
Um, and and I would
But
say you and I won't live to see the end of US global reserve status.
problem is, though, if they open up the spigots on the printers and that causes a new wave of inflation and a new wave of, wealth transfer from the middle class to the 1%,
Yeah,
like
but
how
Trump on Rogan was speaking about this and he said that, look, I mean, that's not saying modern monetary theory is right or correct or anything like that. Um, you can't inflate your way out of debt because like life in the
they're going to
US is
try.
happening
They're
badly.
going to try because they
Yeah,
can't pay the
so
interest. Once the interest
but
gets
but
above
but
5, 6, 7, 8%, like
but when you look at
35
the growth,
trillion,
yeah, but if you look at the growth charts between, so Europe is trying to inflate its way out of debt, and it is not working.
well, it doesn't have the
Um,
reserve currency, yeah. So that's
yeah, yeah. Um, so, but the inflating your way out of debt creates stagflation, which nobody likes, and so it's not a sustainable.
that's what we're in. We're currently in stagflation, bro.
But yeah, I get that. I no disagreement. But Trump is not gonna stay. He's not gonna keep stagflating. He will.
He's got a plan to get out of it, which is to drive down energy costs, to cut government, spending, although
Yeah.
well, how much Doge can accomplish, especially after the H1B episode. Anyway, we've only got another 4 minutes, so I want to move on to our last topic. And so I kind of feel like Elon Musk received such blowback for his H1B comments that he moved on to strongly criticizing the UK government. And it's kind of worked. And it has really shifted the attention away from his
Yeah, absolutely. Although I
faux
don't
pas.
think, I think, yeah, I think I disagree with the causation there a little bit. But anyway, I don't think he pivoted to that. I think it just kind of started coming across his radar because it did flare up recently
It
of its
came
own
out
accord.
organically,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
100% he's on that. And I've heard, this
Yeah,
is
and that was the meme that I was talking about. You know what I mean? Like the H1B visas, we need to get all these Indians in and then bang, Pakistani Muslim rape gangs. How many H1B visas were there amongst those?
yeah, yeah, and then to its shame, like the Labor government trying to, voting against a inquiry. This is like So this is what the right is going to do this is going to be the Holocaust of the 21st century, and the right is going to push this as far as they can, because it really, what an injustice. Obviously not as serious as the murder of 6 million people, but it's still the rape of hundreds of thousands of defenseless,
Children.
innocent, yeah, children. You just can't say, oh, not a big deal. We don't need an inquiry. It's just a right wing talking point. Are you serious, Keir Starmer? Like, this is 100% an absolute scam.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I remember commenting along the lines of it's been entertaining to watch them trying to run old software that is now out of date. So, and that ties back into that article about the manufacturing consent machine that Obama thing, because that was an international machine. It ran across it ran across the entire Western world.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so they're used to being able to say, well, that's just a right-wing talking point. Um, but that day is dead, dog. We don't roll that way no more. You can't just say, like, you can't just say that's a right wing talking point and then have the Guardian splurge out. Well, what about the Muslims? The Muslim backlash to the raping by Muslims. What about you know what I mean? That's not going to fly anymore. Nobody's listening to that shit anymore. Um, and the brute fact is that these girls were targeted because of their race and their religion. So it was a double hate crime on top of being a heinous, heinous child rape crime. And yeah, the press has like I saw Peter Hitchens trying to pretend that the press had done a good job on it. Like, no, no, they didn't, Peter. Sorry, mate. Just objectively, they didn't.
Yeah.
Here's
Have
how
they
we
not?
know they didn't. There was never an inquiry under 14 years of Tory rule.
Yeah.
There's never been an inquiry into this. Rotherham was happening in 1990. So no, the press doing well would have been running this story hot enough and long enough until something was done about it.
Mm.
But nothing was done about it. In fact, it spread, and there's 50 cities in the UK where this has been done. And the stories are just horrific, man. Absolutely horrific. Like, there's one story of a 13-year-old girl who's blind drunk in a room with like five Pakistani adults. She's naked,
And the
blind
cops come
drunk,
and arrest her for prostitution.
her for drunk and disorderly. Like, and the cops will be trying to say, well, we just had to end the situation and make her safe, yada, yada, yada. Well, why
None of
didn't
them were
you?
ever brought to
You could have
justice.
just arrested the five pedos. That was an option too.
Would have been the best option. Anyway, we've run out of
Yeah.
time. Zoom's going to cut us off. So let's continue this discussion either on Wednesday or next week.
Or on our normal time of
Tuesday.
Tuesdays.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Stu.
See you, mate.